Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, relative, immediate family member, an associate, an enemy, and anyone in between. I appreciate all the views, all the comments, and everything else. I wasn't actually looking to do anything today just because I like to sort of go off, complete solid news. However, there was something that dropped a little earlier which is in and around the space to talk about, and then there's a rumor that's kind of circulating a little bit at the moment, which I thought, let me give my 2 pence on. To be honest, it probably doesn't mean anything, and I highly doubt it will come to fruition, but that being said, it's worth just giving my take. So without further ado, let's get into it. So a piece of news that recently dropped about an hour ago, if that, was that Jake Paul's coming back to the world of boxing, but it's not going to be that Tommy Fury rematch. It's not going to be against another pro boxer. It's going to be against Nate Diaz. Now, I think Nate is actually retired from MMA officially. He's definitely out of contract with the UFC. So I guess it makes sense for him to embark on this particular adventure. Now, one thing about Nate, he was always known to have hands. Him and his brother, they trained boxing as sort of like their base style before everything else in MMA. So in that sense, it could be fairly competitive, but realistically, with the amount of years, the amount of wars he's had, the amount of scar tissue he's got on his face, it won't take very long for him to mark up and bust open if he gets caught with anything clean. Don't necessarily know what his chin's saying these days, but him being a naturally smaller guy, like a much smaller guy than Jake Paul, which is obviously the MO of Jake, I don't expect him to necessarily make it to the final belt of the contest. But that being said, while he is in there for whatever reason prior to getting stopped, there will be some resistance he poses, and I guess him sort of being a rangy type guy, there's going to be some issues for Jake to have to work out. Apparently, it's the DAZN pay-per-view worldwide. If that's the case, I won't be purchasing, but I'll definitely be checking it out the following day. And if Tony will agree, then we will talk about it on the breakdown. We'll give it we'll give it its own little segment. But yeah, I highly doubt he will. You never know. We'll see. But yeah, just thought I'd put it out there and see what you guys think on Jake Paul's return. The one thing that possibly may actually make that card worthy of me to invest, Shadasia Green was recently named the WBC mandatory for £168 undisputed champion Franchon Cruz DAZN, and she's not willing to take step aside money. So there's a very good chance that Shadasia could end up being on the undercard against Franchon. If that's the case, then I might purchase it, because that is a very, very interesting fight. And if that does come to pass, then yeah, we'll kind of talk about that a little closer to the time. Speaking of which, I've got about 2 or 3 overdue fem files that need to get done, so I'm definitely going to make some time and I'm going to try and get 2 of them out next week, because I need to get back onto that. I need to give you guys some more of these up and coming females to watch, or ones that are just below that world championship level that need their shine. So I will get on that very, very soon. But yeah, in terms of that card news, interesting fight, but I need to see what the undercard's saying before I can make any purchase recommendations. Okay, so the main reason for this video is, as you saw the other day, Anthony Joshua put on his social media that his next fight is scheduled for December. He said not ideal, but it's all part of a bigger picture. Now, off the back of that, you've had several different rumors come out, one being that he failed a PED test and he's going to have a hearing, and that's why he'll be out of the ring for 6 months. But I don't really buy credence to that one, because if that was the case, well, number one, you would see it on loads and loads of different news outlets by now. But number two, if he were to, have a hearing or whatnot, they would have had to have requested that sooner rather than later. Also, if you're saying that your next fight is scheduled 6 months from now, that guarantees that you're clean or you didn't actually fail the test, because ultimately the hearing would be for a 4-year ban, reducing down to a 2-year unless you can prove contamination, in which case there is no ban to be held. Or at the absolute max, they might give you the 6 months, but there'd have to be an investigation up until that point. We saw obviously what happened with Canelo, for instance, with his clean boxing program. You saw the thing, it took, I think, 3 or 4 months to have the initial hearing, and then he got given the 6-month suspension due to strict liability, but was able to prove that he didn't intentionally ingest any clenbuterol, blah blah blah. So yeah, all of that would kind of lead me to say, if he's saying his next bout is in December, then it's definitely nothing to do with that. So I just want to kind of rule that out, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to give a date at all. So then we look at the other reasons. Now, previously we were saying that it could be potentially due to injury or something like that. Maybe the broken nose, maybe it was to have more time with his coach, or it was to plot a mega fight in the in that winter months. Now, I didn't really like or accept any of those apart from the potential injury one, except for why haven't you said anything? Well, Simon Jordan on the Talk Sport show he does with Spencer Oliver, he basically said that he heard a rumor that there is almost like a championship tournament being organized within the UAE and Saudi Arabia for 2 bouts, which is Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, both to take place in December. Now, I don't know if that's supposed to be on the same date in December or 2 separate dates in December, but those 2 fights happen, and then the winners of those 2 fights face each other in, I guess it would be like a mega match, March, April time the following year. I would guess maybe the summer, if that's what they wanted to pick, although those summer months they don't do too many events around, so not sure. Well, if that was the case, then I would be even more inclined to say that not fighting until December is a huge mistake. As I said in the previous video, and I'm sure other people have said, all the training you do during sparring, during camp, working with your coaches, none of that works until you're able to execute it under the bright lights. How do you know what you're able to execute under the bright lights? When you actually have fights and things happen that you can't control, because sparring is a controlled thing, your training is controlled. You might get pushed, but you're never going to get, pushed to the limits that it's going to be to a major detriment, to yourself. So realistically, you have to fight. You have to be fighting. You have to be in action to know, okay, this happened. This is how I have to maneuver. Can I do it during this split second? Oops, I couldn't do it that time. I got to readjust. Okay, I've cracked it. And to get sharp and to get active, to get well oiled, you need those reps. So if you say, oh, well, I'm going to just train for Deontay Wilder, say for the next 7 months, well, that's not really going to prepare you. By the time you get to that fight, the confidence you're supposed to you haven't necessarily got that confidence yet. Because if you don't have the confidence of the KO victory over Jermaine Franklin, which is what basically you was aiming for, then in this one, you're still going to be going in with slight doubts and slight demons and whatever. So you would need more fights to get involved. Now, I've always said this year should have been 3 activity fights of a decent level. Like, they ain't got to be the elite guys, but obviously I wouldn't necessarily say the scrubs of the division either. Like, you have a happy medium. You have 3 top 20 guys, but from top 25 first one, sort of top 15ish, top 10 second, and then maybe like another top 10 in the third fight. And you just build that way, and then that way when it comes to next year, you're fully engaged, ready to go, working with your coach, the two of you are in sync. You know his instructions, he knows yours. Yeah, everything's just working, and then you give it your best efforts against the top guys in the division. That way, if you fail, you know you just weren't good enough to beat them, and if you succeed, you had the necessary preparation in time for that. Going straight into a fight with Deontay Wilder makes literally no sense at this particular point in time. Now, personally, I think, and I've always thought, AJ beats Wilder. Yes, Wilder's got the right hand, but there are ways that you can nullify that. There's ways to stop that from basically landing. And ultimately, we know every single person that Deontay Wilder's fought outside of Tyson Fury. None of them have been a skilled boxer with the same type of power that he has, which basically means that he hasn't really had much to fear. Might be outbox, okay, he's calculating, trying to work that out, but bang, you can get the shot because the person that you're fighting hasn't got the necessary power to really hurt and damage you, right? For the most part, yes, everyone can crack, but there's different levels. Now, you got someone like Joshua, on the other hand, who's got the skills, got the fundamentals down. He's got a very good jab, got a very good backhand, left hook, uppercut. He can't really fight on the inside, but mid-range he's deadly, whereas Wilder needs to be outside. Then on the other hand, for Joshua, you've got, Wilder, this guy that at any moment can find the opening and deliver a shot down the pipe, so therefore you're going to be a bit apprehensive to let your shots go and not just force him onto his back foot. So yeah, there's at the moment there's an issue for both, but the difference between Wilder and AJ is, I think Wilder in his head, delusional as he may be about what he is, he already said, I'm not a boxer. Like, I only need to be perfect for 2 seconds in a fight. So he's not telling himself, I'm going to try and outbox you, I'm going to try and outbox you. All he's ever telling himself is, I'm just looking for that one opening to put you to sleep. And that in itself is what currently gives Deontay Wilder an advantage over someone like AJ, who has to overthink everything, has to get into his head, try and work out, okay, how am I going to approach this? If I commit to this shot, am I going to get countered with something? Okay, how can I keep my head off center when I'm throwing this shot to make sure that he doesn't come straight back? And all of this stuff's going to be in his head, potentially making him hesitant. Wilder won't be hesitant when he thinks that opening is there. So the only way AJ is going to get out of that mindset is to become comfortable in whatever he's doing. And the only way you get comfortable is by reps. So if you're going to go into a fight with Wilder at the end of the year, there's absolutely no reason not to take a fight in July. Now, some people say DAZN probably don't have the budget to guarantee him 3 fights at the level he needs because of the money he's on. Okay, well, I've always said, simple fix. You half the money based on the competition. Now, did an interview with Tasha Jonas last night on the Undefeated podcast channel during our breakdown video. If you haven't seen that, please have a look. I'll leave the link below in the description box. But basically, what she said was that when she went to speak to Clarissa Shields about a fight, she asked for basically money that she believed was in excess of the Terry Harper fight, because Clarissa claims that she's a bigger profile opponent, bigger reach globally. It's a much higher risk, therefore it should be, more than what she was offered for Terry Harper. And she said, ultimately, that same money, I can fight 2 times and get that exact same money that I was asking for. So if you want me to up the risk, then obviously pay me more. But in that same sense, you give AJ 2 fights. Like the Jermaine Franklin one was, yes, it was a gimme to a certain extent, but obviously it's never really a gimme like that. But you give him someone like a Simon Keane, who's, I think he had a loss about 2 fights ago, but he's come back 2 other fights since then. Canadian, 6'5.5", similar height to AJ, a bit lumbering, got a bit of power, but nothing special. Like, put him in there, work him over the same way he did Dominic Brazil, 7 rounds. Like, get all your kinks out, work it, bang, finished. Outside of that, you've got people like you could even do someone like a Victor Vickhurst or a Trevor Bryan, even though these people, yeah, they may be coming off losses, but I'm sure they would take those fights. There's others. I mean, I'm trying to stay away from southpaws. Otherwise, I would say even someone like a Dempsey McKean, give him his opportunity. But again, someone who's not necessarily that great. Even now, I don't like this one personally because I really like this guy and I feel like he needs to be given more opportunities himself. But someone like a Johnny Rice, who's got great fundamentals, great footwork, like is long, rangy, knows how to survive, but you've got someone who's up, who's tall, who you can kind of, you can work distance and work range at, and someone that would prepare you for the likes of a Deontay Wilder if that's who you would be coming in to fight next, just in terms of height, reach and everything else. Now again, I'm not saying that would have been my ideal one because I like Johnny. I want Johnny to get some good paydays and just keep working on his craft and hopefully maybe make a go of getting somewhere higher up the rankings. But that's the type of opponent you kind of need, in my opinion. No more short guys, 6'2", 6'1", even 6'3" is a bit on the short side for AJ. Like, up those levels, but just someone that you can get some rounds off of. Even if you go 12 rounds again, but now you're understanding the patterns that your coach is employing you to throw. Like, you start doing it a bit more often, like, and the same things that you normally revert to type with, all of a sudden these new things are going to be what you start to revert to type with because you just had more time under the hot lights. And that's what I feel like it needed to be. So again, if this 4-man tournament thing is real and they say that Tyson Fury would face Andy Ruiz in the interim and then Alexander Usyk would face Daniel Dubois, at the end of the day, if that was the case, if them two is fighting, gaining that activity, why would you not now want to fight and have that activity also? It just makes a lot more sense for you to make sure that you're as well oiled as they are, because if you find the right opponent, there should be no reason for you to be damaged or injured or unable to then go again in December, unless you're really regressed that far back that we have to say, okay, you know what, yeah, you just ain't got it no more, if that's the case. But yeah, look, no matter what the explanation is for why this thing is, outside of an injury, which should have just been told to people, yeah, for you to not fight until December is, yeah, that one, it can't fly. And especially if there's no injury, but it's all of a sudden that December fight ends up being like Dillian White or something like that. As I've always said, that Dillian White fight is a legacy fight. It can happen at any particular time. But if that was going to be the fight, to me, that fight either needs to happen in the summer for something else to happen in December, or another fight needs to happen in the summer for that fight to then take place there. But personally, I wouldn't even have that fight now. I'd do the Jarrell Millers and all those ones. Maybe the Andy Ruiz trilogy. I was thinking about it, but just the height thing is starting to not fill me with confidence, so maybe leave that one alone. But do those fights. You can do the Deontay Wilder fight, the Joe Joyce fight, the Tyson Fury fight 2024, 2025, finish the career with the Dillian White rematch. That to me would be sort of the best kind of way to go. Personally, even as a fight for the summer, FA Dragba, Nigerian versus Nigerian, you maybe do it, you maybe do it in Africa if you can do it, if the zone will stretch it out there. Just have a fight that will keep busy. And ultimately, I don't think you can say that AJ will lose to the FA Dragba. So that doesn't seem like a high risk fight, but it will still give you things to work on. And it's a guy that's just about as tall as you with a longer reach than you as well, which is what Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury have over you. It's something to work on. So yeah, that's my opinion. For you guys, look, leave yours down below as to what you think of this potential tournament thing. And yeah, anything else that I've spoken about. Again, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. And for right now, it's the Hardcore Casual out.